Hello everyone, it's Mike Stone and I do a lot of mastering for DMS, so I thought I'd give you my 5 top tips before you send your tracks into me for mastering, and I'll be able to get the best sound out of them. Okay, so one of my biggest things has got to be about the volumes. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of tracks in my mix here, all the way down, but one of the things is, it is the volume. If you look at my master here, we go into my mixer channel, you can see I'm averaging around -9. So this means that all of that power that's behind the track I can still lift up. Now it's a really good practice to keep your levels from above peaking, so hitting that red line on the wall. I mean, look at the average of my tracks hitting here, look, they're averaging around, I don't know what we've got there, -8, -7, that one's -20. So even if you were to select all the tracks and bring them down together and get that level down, I'm going to be able to work with the track a lot better because I've got more space to be able to pull that out. Now as a reference, I'll show you in the next picture what that's going to look like, okay? So just to finish off about the mastering, so one example I want to show is, with this bounce of the mix, when I say about turning your amp up, so this would be similar to me just turning my amplifier up. So if I turn it up, and I get it up quite close to the top, you can still see all the dynamics I've kept with the track. Now, if I go to the mastered track, say some of you have sent me tracks like this, so I'd need this down to about -6 to get some sort of area that I could add volume to or EQ. Now, if I turn the master down, look at that flat wall. So this is what I've got to work with, and that's really difficult to try and pull out the power of the track because it's already been squeezed. The mix has basically been squeezed together, and now I've got to try and pull it apart again. So yeah, if you could just send me your tracks, a nice level, so maybe -6, it's a good level, -3 if you need to, but that still gives me a really good headroom to play with. Okay, so tip 2. I just want to talk a little bit about EQing. So I've taken this classic tambourine loop from Lynn Collins, so I'll just play it for you now. So if we look at the EQ here, you can see that there's a lot of bottom end noise going on, so a lot of bottom bass. This can really affect what volume you can get from the tambourine, or even just your track. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to start moving the EQ up, okay? So as you'll hear, the tambourine still sounds the same. It's not until you start getting more up towards the higher end when you really start to notice the change in the sample. Now if you think about this whole area here as our mix, if we were to leave, say, our tambourines with all of this added content at the bottom, by the time we've got 6 or 7 tracks, all of this bass area would be lifted up. So it's really good practice just to roll off the bottom ends on your, say, imagine a hi-hat. When a hi-hat is hit, it's hit with a wooden stick. So that thud is going to be there in the recording. Now it's really good practice to do that, and when I'm doing mastering, I'll usually roll off right at the bottom, so I try to get like 30 Hz and get that bottom end away. That used to be an old practice with recording vinyl, because the vinyl could literally skip, the needle could skip off the top of the vinyl. So basically, I would just suggest to just roll off the bottoms, have a listen, use your ears. If you can use good monitors and speakers, you'll be able to hear that bottom end go. But in a mix, you're not going to notice that, but you can still hear the true tambourine. Okay, so tip 3 is your monitors. As you can see, this guy here has got quite a few monitors. They're all sort of near field. These are a bit further away, further afield. But yeah, you've got a great selection out there now. You've got the Adams speakers, which are getting really popular. You've got the classic Yamahas. You've got these little rockets that a lot of people are using. Now, the reason why I say about monitoring is it can make such a difference to your mix. And paying out for a good set of speakers, a lot of people will say, I'm not buying speakers, it's too expensive. But it really will make a difference to your mix. It really does. A lot of people go for the rockets because they are smaller. They're quite cheap in considering how much monitors can cost, but they work really well. Another thing as well is in your car. We used to have to burn CDs all the time to just test out in the car, but now with the USB sticks and the Bluetooth, you can really just listen to your mix in the car. And let's face it, if you listen to it in the car, there's things you can't hear, then a lot of your listeners won't be able to hear that either. And a lot of the industry heads that are listening to your tracks, they're driving around all day to meetings, and that's where they do a lot of their listening. So if you can get it to sound good in a car, then you're on a winning step. Last thing as well, I always used to test my stuff through an old TV speaker. Now the TV speaker is brilliant as well because of how small the speaker is. It's limited to a certain bandwidth. Now if you can hear your drums and your bass and your vocals, it puts you in really good stead, and it's a really good practice. Just wire up an old little speaker to your amp, play your tunes through there, and it'll give you a really good understanding. Another one is headphones, but be really careful with headphones because your mix will be completely different out of speakers. So it is always worth just testing between the both of them. And one of the things as well I'd say is if you finished your track, you think you finished your mix, give it half a day. Sometimes even just going to sleep, having a listen first thing in the morning when your ears are fresh. That will give you a really good indication of how well you've mixed your track. Okay. Okay, tip 4. It's a really straightforward tip, really. So as you'll all know, CD is 16-bit, and a lot of you work in 16-bit, or you might work in 24-bit, but the actual DAW uses 32-bit float. Now if I go to export, so I'm going to export my audio, as you'll see here, standard pops up, it's got 16-bit. Now if I go down, you can see it's got 32. Now I'd suggest to everyone that's sending stuff for me to master, just bounce it in 32 if you can. I know it's a lot bigger file size, but when I start adding all the effects and plugins and we go through the processing, it's going to be down converted. So this really helps and makes the track sound a lot clearer, and it shouldn't add any artifacts or noise to it. So yeah, that's my tip 4. Tip 5, last tip. This one's quite a straightforward one. You might think that everyone does it, but they don't, and it makes my life a lot easier. Leave some space at the start of your track, and leave me some outro space as well. If we have a look here, so here it looks like the wave's stopped. If we look down in this bottom left hand corner, you can see the levels are still going up. So just from that little tail there, if that was cut to there, say, and the track ends, get an abrupt cut, and that can be really annoying because that means that sometimes I have to fade your reverb or your tail end out on your track, which isn't how you heard it, or you might have had a long reverb that ended the track really nice. So yeah, if you leave me some space at the end, then that gives me a chance to just be able to do all the EQing, do all the mastering, and we can get a lovely finish. Okay, so that's my 5 tips. Sorry I look like Adam and the Ants. I've got the window in front of me and the sun's blaring through. So yeah, I hope those tips have been good for you, and we'll try to do some more just to give you a guide and help you along the way.